A brand new Game of Thrones show and a Song of Ice and Fire adaptation is on the horizon. A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, adapted from George R.R. Martin's short stories about Dunk and Egg, the first of which is entitled The Hedge Knight, and the first season of which is scheduled for January of 2026. I am coming to you live from New York Comic Con, where there was just a panel featuring George R.R. Martin, the author himself, as well as the actors who play both Dunk and Egg, those being Peter Claffey and Dexter Soul Ansel, as well as the showrunner Ira Parker. Today, I want to discuss exactly what went down at that panel, the new trailer, and what is going on with this brand new show. I'm covering everything you need to know, so be sure to leave a like and subscribe, as I'll have many more details from Comic-Con coming for you in the near future. I should address that the promo cycle started a bit before Comic-Con itself. We got our first images from the official Game of Thrones Twitter account, I will still call it Twitter because that's what it is in my head, that feature this very colorful and brightly lit picture of Dunk and his three horses riding to the tournament. It looks a lot better than a lot of what we've seen in the recent past of Song of Ice and Fire adaptations, at least in terms of like visuals and being actually able to see shit. And it is really cool to see that it is a bright and more cheerful atmosphere, and that's reflected in the promotional line that we see in all of the Associated Press, that being that spring is coming. Of course, the words of House Stark are the very famous winter is coming, but no, this isn't the season where everything is dying. New things are being born, and life is being lived, and things are a bit happier in this adaptation. Additionally, the first poster for the show came out before Comic-Con, and it features the line, "A tall tale that became a legend," which very much fits for the trajectory that this story will end up taking. The look of this poster is incredible. Both Dunk and Egg look like they've hopped off the pages of The Hedge Knight wholesale. Egg is approximately 3 apples tall, and I love the very specific detail that Dunk's sword belt is made of rope, showing just kind of how out of his element he is and how much he is trying to be a knight despite not really knowing what that is. It's just fascinating and I love it, and it really shows that the show here is very much representing the book in a very direct and concrete way. It honestly is the most accurate adaptation we've ever seen from this series, at least based on initial material. I could be dead wrong, but man, I hope I'm not. Hello, everyone. I'm coming to you right after the New York Comic Con Dunkin' Egg panel, and it was incredible in many ways. To first discuss the trailer, it looks fantastic through and through. It has absolutely got the look of the books, and everything is amazing. The dragon puppet is something that really stood out to me as being really well done. It looks practical and really unique. It reminds me a lot of those like kind of Chinese New Year's type street festival things where you'd see them like at a parade or whatnot. And additionally, it looks fantastic through and through. All of the characters look amazing. The only one that I am questioning any sort of adaptation decision on is the short-haired Arion Brightflame, since he had such iconic long hair in the graphic novel and in all art I've seen of him. But it is interesting, and it does very much distinguish him from other Targaryens we've seen in recent memory in terms of like film adaptations, at the very least, because we have Aegon and Aemond, who are sort of the evil-leaning Targaryens in House of the Dragon, both of whom have long hair, and it could kind of set up maybe him developing and getting long hair in some later season if he does reappear. Panel itself was incredible. It was great to see everyone. Dunk and Egg are fantastic, and they seem to have real life chemistry as great as they would have in the books or in the show adaptation. Egg is just a ray of sunshine. I believe his first name is Dexter. I fully loved everything he said, and I think that Dunk really seems like he has this deep vulnerability to him and to the performance that I really, really enjoy. And talking about just the overall structure of the show, both Peter, who's the guy who plays Dunk, and Ira, who's the showrunner, said something very interesting that I really enjoyed, that being a focus on viewpoint perspectives as something that is pretty important to the show as a whole. Ice and Fire, of course, is very famously from multiple viewpoint character perspectives. That is something that is lost in any television adaptation, but they said that given the fact that this was a singular point of view book and Dunk is very much the main focus, they are trying to maintain that idea throughout and keep it going in Dunk's perspective, keeping to what Dunk would see. And I think that's really cool and really interesting. I also have to ask, what kind of videos do you want to see from me in regards to Dunk and Egg? This is my first time being in the Song of Ice and Fire community as an established creator with a brand new show starting. So let me know what kind of videos you want to see in the comments below. And yeah, I'll get back to discussing exactly what we've seen here. The man himself was there, of course, George R.R. Martin, and he said some fairly interesting stuff. First off, he spoiled a few things about the show, I think assuming that people in the audience had read the books, which I'm sure some had, but not everyone had, like certain things about Egg and some of the episode structure. We do know that the climax of the story, that I'm not going to spoil, is coming in episode 5, followed by episode 6, which is sort of an epilogue to all of it. But Martin said something that I hadn't really heard before, which is that he has planned to do the Mystery Knight, the third Dunk and Egg book, from both Dunk and Egg's perspectives, which, as far as I'm aware, we did not previously know. And that's interesting. I would have liked to see that, but obviously it did not end up working out. There was also an interesting Ice and Fire detail kind of mentioned or alluded to by George R.R. Martin. At the end of this panel, they brought up a few people and knighted them. George Martin knighted them himself, which was very fun. I was tragically not selected, but it's okay. I'm very forgiving. While that was happening, one of them referenced Brienne's knighting. It was a woman who wanted to be called a sir, said it was good enough for Brienne, and Martin said, "Oh, not in the books yet," which is interesting, given the fact that we do not know what is next in Brienne's story, and that could be at least some indication that what happens in season 8, episode 2 of Game of Thrones, and Night of the Seven Kingdoms, that being Brienne's knighting by Jaime, could perhaps happen in The Winds of Winter or A Dream of Spring. I've always assumed that was one of the more accurate things to happen during season 8, but it's nice to hear some higher level of confirmation. There was also a recent interview by showrunner Ira Parker with Entertainment Weekly that gave 2 key points of insight that I am very excited to hear about this series. First and foremost, he says that it has a light and hopeful tone, which is excellent. It's very different than what we've seen of this universe so far, and that does very much match up with the novellas themselves. And additionally, we know that he says that nobody's thinking about magic in this series. I think that shows that they're not really trying to tie it into these bigger mysteries of the world and the series and things like the Targaryen dynasties. While there will be Targaryens appearing, this is not an era with dragons or anything. And this kind of focus away from magic makes me confident that, yeah, maybe they're taking things the right way and sticking more accurately to the novellas, as well, there is some magic in specifically the third novella. It is pretty contained to just that story, which would assumedly be season 3 of this arc. I am really, really excited for this show. There's a lot going on at New York Comic Con. I will be attending a panel with Martin on Saturday as well, and I hope you will all look forward to further insights from that and whatever else I decide to make in the meantime. Thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. We'll have much more coverage from New York Comic Con coming for you in the next couple days, so I hope you'll stay tuned for all of that and for all of the videos I'll have upcoming covering this series once it actually begins airing. Let me know in the comments what kind of content in that regard you would like to see as well, and I look forward to hearing from all of you there, and hopefully seeing you in future videos about both this television series and the book series upon which it's based. Goodbye, everyone. Thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed this